Chapter 18, New World Order. When I sit down to write my first column, I panic. I spent so many nights in the same cat hair-filled, stuffy apartment, completely high on coke, that the four walls suddenly seem like they're going to descend upon me. And then a thought comes to me as clear as if I were a cartoon character and it was printed in a thought bubble over my head. I could call Alex. Even though I'd deleted his number from my BlackBerry, I still knew it by heart. Would I ever forget it? And that's when I start to panic. We talked a lot in rehab about how the obsession to use gets removed at a certain point. And after a few days in pledges, that had happened to me. But here in my apartment, with a new lease on life and a fantastic dream job to do, the thought of doing cocaine pops into my head like it's the most natural thing in the world. And that's when I realize I have to get out. So I grab my laptop and race to the closest Starbucks. After ordering a latte, I sit down and look at all the people drinking coffee while nurturing their writing dreams. I suddenly feel like one of the delusional Hollywood hopefuls I've always judged so harshly. Before I descend too deeply into a judgment hole, though, I remind myself of what Rachel always tells me, which is that judgment is fear, and that it says far more about the person doing the judging than it does about the person being judged. As I'm thinking about that, Adam walks by. He doesn't see me, just marches right by and goes to wait in line, and my first instinct is to duck and hide. But instead I call his name. He turns around and looks surprised. "Amelia," he says softly. I haven't seen him since he left my apartment the night we made out, and for a split second I feel myself about to surrender into a shame spiral. But there's a thought I'm having about Adam that is thoroughly distracting me from how ashamed I feel. Roughly translated, the thought is, he's adorable. How come I never really noticed his olive skin and square jaw before? And why had I failed to note that he has the exact body type I've always been drawn to? Tall, boyishly lean, not overly muscular. I don't have much time to ask myself these questions before words just start tumbling out of my mouth. Look, I'd really like to apologize for the last time we saw each other, the night of Steve's party, I start to say. I was a mess, and Adam smiles and holds up a hand as a gesture for me to stop. Don't worry, come on, we all have nights like that. He suddenly gestures toward the empty seat in front of him. Can I join you? Would I be interrupting? Not at all, I say, sliding the seat over to him. I'd love it. Adam looks at me as he sits, and our eyes stay on each other long past when they should. My God, you look amazing, he says. I don't think I've ever seen you look so good. You too, I say, as his green eyes peer into mine. We just smile at each other until he says, "For the record, what bothered me about the night we hooked up wasn't the fact that you were high. Or I should say, what bothered me more than the fact that you were high was hearing that you'd made out with Gus earlier." His eyes stay on me the entire time he talks. I know, but that didn't mean anything, I say. His eyes flicker over me, and he looks the slightest bit cruel. You and Gus, or you and me? After a while, isn't it hard to tell the difference between what means something and what doesn't? No, it's not, I say. I hadn't planned to tell him about being sober and feel wholly unprepared for some kind of a "this is me now" speech. But I can't seem to stop myself. I have to tell you something. No, hear me out, he says. I really liked you, and that hurt me. But it's just that, I don't know, Amelia. You're amazing, but you're a party girl. You're wild. And while I love that, it's part of what attracted me to you from the beginning. Being around you that night made me realize, I guess, that I'm not. There's a pause, and I realize he's done. Can I talk now? I ask. He nods. Yeah, sorry about the rant. It's okay, I say, subconsciously putting my hand on top of his, before realizing what I'm doing and snatching it back. It's just that I'm now a reformed party girl, I say. I'm sober. I glance down and then force myself to look him in the eye. Can I just say I'm sorry for the hurtful and silly things I did? He nods, looking extremely surprised. The fact is, I had a great time with you that night, and it wasn't about the coke, I continue. The coke was actually the only thing wrong with that entire experience. He's about to say something, but I keep talking. And maybe it's because I'm sober now, or maybe I would have seen it anyway, but what happened with you did mean something to me. I find myself unable to look him in the eye. He smiles. So you're sober? He's looking either stunned or confused, and since at least half of LA is sober, he surely couldn't be confused. You mean you don't drink or anything? I nod, and then shake my head. Yes, no, I don't. You don't even smoke pot? I smile. I've pretty much always hated pot. It would just make me paranoid that nobody could understand anything I was saying. I'd even made a conscious effort to become a pothead at one point when I realized it would be far less expensive than cocaine. I bought an ounce and smoked it for 3 days straight, and that's when I'd proven to myself once and for all that I hated it. No, not even pot, is all I say. My God, that's amazing, he says. Congratulations. Thanks. It feels great. Adam still seems to be in shock. But he shakes his head, as if trying to clear up space in his brain for this information. You were the ultimate party girl. Smiling, I opt not to tell him about my new column. I'm enjoying this interaction far too much to allow it to turn into a conversation about work. Well, now I'm the ultimate reformed party girl, I say. He smiles as he looks at me with mock seriousness. Do you think the bar at Jones will survive without your business? After we both laugh, I ask, so what about you? How's Norm's? He grins. Still standing, I assume. You quit? He nods. I got a series. Are you serious? Which one? It never really crossed my mind that Adam would become a really successful actor. Most of the aspiring actors I know seem to get, if anything, a small role in an indie that no one sees outside of Sundance, or a one-line part on Without a Trace. The Agency. My mouth goes slightly agape. The Agency is Darren Starr's new dramedy about the lives of 4 young male real estate agents. Are you serious? He nods. It's crazy. I know. I'm the only unknown. Congratulations, I say, leaning over to hug him. That's incredible. Incredibly convenient, too, he says, as we disentangle. I was getting so sick of norms that I was on the verge of pouring soup on the next person who ordered it. I laugh, but I'm thinking, it figures. Just as soon as I realize how adorable Adam is, he gets on a series and will now have women fighting over him like he's the last pair of Hudson jeans at a sample sale. Adam's cell phone rings, and he doesn't answer it, but glances at the time and seems to realize he has to be somewhere. I have to go, he says, looking like he doesn't want to. It's really fantastic to see you. I feel myself panicking. I wanted this conversation to go on forever, and yet it's ending. Can I freeze this moment? He said he really liked me, I think, as I sit there trying to look casual. Why did he use the past tense? When exactly do you stop really liking someone? Then he says, I have to go to New York for publicity stuff for a month or so, but can we go out when I'm back? I can't help but smile. Definitely, I say, and then wonder if I should try to pin him down to a specific date. I had a roommate once who always said you had to nail guys down to a time and place if you really liked them. Girls are allowed to be aggressive now, she'd say. This isn't the 50s. But she also terrified most every man she came into contact with, stayed in on weekend nights so she could read the dictionary, and later joined a cult. Have a great trip, I finally say. I will, he says, and then leans down to give me a kiss on the cheek and adds, I'll talk to you soon. As I watch him take a step away, I wish that I had a time machine that could make it be a month or so already. Just then, Adam turns around and asks, how much do you know about puppies? I think about the dogs we had when I was growing up, and then about Tiger. Some, I say weakly. Well, I got one, a golden retriever, and while she's pretty much the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life, I don't know entirely how to handle her. I've only had her a week, and she's already chewed through almost my entire sneaker collection. And she runs in circles around my apartment like she's just inhaled helium or something. I laugh. Inhaled helium? I ask. Weird imagery for a dog, I realize. Point is, right now she's sitting in my apartment, potentially tearing the entire thing to shreds, and I could definitely use a reform party girl's help in taming her. I stand up. Should we take 2 cars or 1, I ask. 1, he says, smiling. You're fun to drive. If it hadn't been for cocaine, I probably would have been a practicing miserable alcoholic my whole life, I say, as Adam drives us on the 10. I see a smile creep onto his face as he switches lanes, and I playfully punch him. Glad you're so amused by my sad tale of addiction and recovery. His tentative smile breaks into a mammoth grin. I'm not amused, just happy. I smile and ask, and what are you so happy about? He gestures from me back to him. This, you, the way you talk, all of it. If I could bottle your voice, pheromones, and words, I'd be a rich man. I laugh. I'm about to give him a hard time for being such a cheeseball, but instead I just grin. I reach over and grab his right hand, placing it under my left leg, and it feels like the most natural gesture in the world. I feel lucky right now, I say. Adam smiles as he exits the freeway, and then he bursts out laughing. Let me guess, just laughing out of the joy of this moment? I ask. Sort of, he laughs. That and the memory of you sleep singing the last time you were in my car. Now I start cracking up. Christ, why didn't you drive me to the nearest insane asylum, I ask, cringing at the memory. Don't think I didn't want to, he says, smiling. But then I knew I'd never have a chance with you. Still chuckling, he pulls up in front of a garage in Venice. Now, prepare yourself for a creature so cute, she even gives you a run for your money. Adam stops the car, jumps out, and rushes to open the door for me. Milady, he says, giving me a mock bow. Sir, I say, mock bowing back, opting not to confess what a horrific surrogate mom I was to Tiger. Please bring me to my arch nemesis, the other woman vying for your love. As soon as the word love is out of my mouth, I want to hurl. The primary way to terrify a man, probably right behind sleep singing in his car, is to tell him you love him. I hadn't, of course, but the word is potent enough on its own. Adam doesn't seem remotely ruffled. Don't you worry now, he says, leading me down a path to his apartment. There's enough love in my heart for both of you. As he opens the door, an adorable tiny golden retriever comes bounding over to him and immediately starts humping his leg. I tell myself not to make too much over the fact that he said the L word back. And I don't really have time. Seeing as the image of this tiny dog thrusting back and forth on his shin is so hilarious that I immediately lose it. I thought you said it was a girl, I gasp between laughs. It is, she is, he shrieks. Doris, stop, he yells at the dog, who seems to take that as a cue to hump Adam's leg all the more furiously. Adam looks at me. Is that totally weird? A female dog being this sex-crazed? Is Doris some kind of a pervert? Doris? I ask, trying to stop laughing. What kind of a dog name is that? I know, he says, gesturing for me to pull Doris the dog off him, which I do. Falling back onto the floor, Adam sighs. It's my favorite grandmother's name, he says. I look at him, not sure if he's kidding, and let Doris go. Instead of rushing back over to Adam, she digs under his couch, where she seems to have stashed a roll of toilet paper. Oh, God, he says, watching Doris grab the toilet paper in her mouth and start tearing it apart. She loves to TP the place, he says, smiling, gesturing for me to come sit next to him. She's worse than a drunk teenager on Halloween. I sit on the floor next to where he's lying down, and he pulls himself up and faces me. I see Doris kick the toilet paper across the room and lunge at it, then skid with it in the other direction. We should probably take that away from her, I say. I predict nothing good can come from this. Adam moves closer to me, and I can suddenly hear my heart beating in my chest as he moves less than a foot away, staring at me and not breaking eye contact. Screw the dog, he says. I'm sorry, but she's just going to have to share me with you. He leans in, and before I can wonder if he's going to kiss me and if it's going to feel as amazing as it did the last time, our lips are touching and pressing together and opening and meshing as perfectly as two things not belonging to the same person could. For the next 2 hours, we make out and laugh and talk, and I'm in a delicious daze until Doris starts howling and Adam tells me he has to take the red-eye that night, so he'll drive me back to my car. When he drops me off, he kisses me passionately and tells me he can't wait to see me again. I get out of the car and wave as he drives off, realizing that I'm perfectly capable of riding it home without succumbing to any urges to call Alex. Home later, I decide to write about the wedding and start by titling the piece, Here Come the Groomsmen. And then it just flows. It's not every day that a wedding takes place in the house where you grew up, I write. And it's certainly not every day that a wedding takes place in the house where you grew up and you end the evening in bed with two of the groomsmen. Then again, everyday experiences have never really been my thing. I keep going from there, describing the competitiveness of the guys in the sauna, the triangular dance we did all night, and finally, the bedroom antics. I decide not to mention alcohol in the column at all. It's obvious that Daniel thinks of my partying as the frosting on my fabulous life. He doesn't understand that without the drugs and alcohol, all of these so-called exciting things would never have happened. But that's okay, since Daniel wants this column to be funny and sexy, and there's nothing funny or sexy about drug addiction, rehab, and sobriety, I opt not to mention the succession of Amstel Lights we were drinking or the bottle of champagne I'd had at dinner. If people wanted to believe I could be this wild without any chemicals in my system, they were welcome to. When I finish the column and print it up, I try to read it the way a stranger would. And I have to say, I'm impressed. It's amusing, self-deprecating, and somewhat titillating. Then I start to second-guess myself, deciding that since I wasn't pulling my hair out over it, it couldn't be good. How could I possibly be making the equivalent of a month's salary at Absolutely Fabulous, I think, writing something funny off the top of my head? And then I hear Rachel's voice telling me that sometimes things are easy. People in recovery call it the easier, softer way. As I think about that, I realize how so much of what Rachel and Tommy and Justin and everyone else has told me just flows naturally through my brain now. Before I can talk myself out of it, I email the piece to Daniel and try not to obsess over what his reaction is going to be. So then I switch over to my other newfound obsession, Adam. I decide to Google him and discover that there's all this information out there about this unknown norms waiter who just landed a major part on the hottest new TV show. I start getting fully into fantasy mode, imagining the two of us on the red carpet at a premiere and having picnics at the top of Runyon when I realize what I'm doing. One of the reasons it's not a good idea to get into a relationship in your first year, Tommy always said, is that alcoholics and addicts can do anything alcoholically. Books, movies, Pop-Tarts, Cosabella, thong buying, dating, whatever it is, you can lose yourself in an obsession with it, we will. So I forced myself to step away from the computer and set about cleaning my apartment, which always seems coated in a thin or thick layer of cat fur. The activity feels good. I don't recall enjoying the act of cleaning before. I know I've liked it when things have been clean, but having fun while dust-bustering and scrubbing is altogether new to me. I start blasting music and singing along as I clean the living room floor, and the music is so loud that I almost don't hear the phone ring. But I see the red light on my cordless flashing, so I turn down the music and answer. "Hello," I say as I plop down on the couch. "Amelia, darling," says Daniel. "John and I were just sitting here discussing how we have to do big, glamorous, sexy shots of you to accompany each of your columns. We were thinking of using Jean-Paul Blanc, unless you have a photographer you'd prefer." I try to slow my heart, which seems to be racing like Lance Armstrong in his last mile. Jean-Paul Blanc does all the Vanity Fair cover shoots, and his photos are constantly being exhibited. "Pictures of me by him? Really?" I manage. "Are you sure?" "Of course I'm sure," he laughs. "In fact, turns out he has a hole in his schedule, meaning if you're game and approve Jean-Paul, we could get you shot this week." I don't know what to say and don't want to ask him again if he's sure. "So that means you like what I turned in?" "Like it," he says. "Like it, darling. It's ace. You and Party Girl are going to take us to the next level. I have no doubts now. Not that I did before, mind you. But after reading your copy, which is lively and sexy and at times laugh out loud funny, we're terribly excited." My heart continues to do its dance, and I don't say anything because I don't think I know the words that are supposed to accompany the ecstatic feeling flowing through me. In a strange way, this moment reminds me of sitting in Robert's office being fired. This can't be happening, my inner voice seems to be saying. But it is.